Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. Today, we're just going to be looking at Bitcoin and basically anticipating its future moves. So, as I've said in previous videos, and I'll say it again, the past few weeks for Bitcoin have been quite astonishing. Um, we're looking at like double-digit percentage moves from the past few weeks. In the past 6 weeks, we've been up almost 50%. I'm pretty sure if you measure it to the wick, we were at 50% gains um, from the beginning of October, which is quite amazing and is almost more amazing than this move in July. Um, because of that, everything seems to be at a standstill or at least bleeding. And right now, we're trying to figure out if Bitcoin has any more room to grow. I'll always say that there is a possibility. If you want to mention 20K, sure, that's possible. Any possibility, there is more than a 0% chance of happening. Others are more likely than not, and that's where price analysis comes in. So right now we're on the BLX. Um, this is probably going to be the most like accurate kind of price exchange, like price history of Bitcoin from since inception. And right now we have the new weekly candle printed for this week. So we get the BLX candle, which is arguably a little bit more accurate than say just looking at Bitstamp. But um, small differences, but I like to keep it on the BLX. Right now, the RSI is at 76. Last week we were at about 78, let's say. So anything essentially beyond 70 on the RSI is generally overbought. It's overvalued. It's gone up too quickly. Um, and in this case we are over now. Naturally, like you can make that's not a hard and fast rule. As you can see here, we've uh, throughout the last bull run, we've consistently peaked over 70 and pretty much had a majority of the moves over 70. um, and 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 so this kind of ruling is not hard and fast. It's more of a general guideline. um, and so at this moment, I would say this is you know uh, e- either it's a good time for Bitcoin to cool down. There could be a correction coming. Even if it started moving sideways, that would generally bring the RSI down. Like as you can see from this week to last week's candle to this week's, we're essentially at the same price, but we've dipped down a little bit on the RSI, and that will happen if there's sideways action. Another example could be like here at the beginning of the week of this sideways action. So we could say we could take the top of 59.81 and we went down to 54.78. So there is even in sideways price action, RSI cools down, and this would be the same for the MACD, which is more like a momentum calculator, those kinds of things. And so where does this put us essentially at a 77-ish RSI? Well, when you look at the bull run of 2019, which is the most recent one where we peaked out of it, we were at 79 and 78, so high 70s area. I can bring this up higher. In the last bull run, we really peaked out at like 90 on the RSI, which is pretty insane. Um, However, I wouldn't necessarily compare these here to what's happening right now, simply because a majority of these was after Bitcoin essentially uh, made its previous all-time high support, and it continued rallying. At that point, you can argue there was no other, support or resistance lines up here. There simply wasn't, and it was just pure discovery mode. And so that's when everything gets really crazy really quickly, and could explain why you have these giant spikes in RSI. However, we've had, instances of it, here back here in 2016 of June, we peaked out at like 80 RSI, 90 RSI, 85 RSI here as well. We peaked extremely high, but I would argue, um, as you can see kind of here in the sense that the RSI is pretty much trending downwards. And I would make that argument because uh, Bitcoin's getting less volatile over time. It shows on the RSI. And because of that, we have to be cognizant that we might never really revisit these extreme levels of RSI, let alone will we see like these levels here. So the fact that we're at a 77 RSI right now, is more overbought, I would argue, than in previous passes of a like an 80, for example, or an 85. If you can understand what I'm saying, essentially, when the RSI gets high at this point, it's more so overbought than times of past, because in times of past it was more volatile than it was today. So when it does peak out like this, it's time to really like focus in on Bitcoin at that point, and that is one of my reasonings why, well, we are getting pretty high. Bitcoin can definitely, by all means, go even higher. However, I doubt we'll hit these levels of like the mid 80s or higher until Bitcoin reaches its all-time high. Simply because of descending RSI levels. Um, this would be another instance of that. Um, uh, this trend line, I would think that it will get touched or even peak above it when Bitcoin is in price discovery mode. Not right now. We're not in price discovery mode. We are still underneath the previous all-time high, and there's still room to like there's still, I would say, a long way to go until we can even consider it. I know because of recent bullishness, it seems like 20K can come tomorrow even. But I would argue not. I would say that it's pretty much, I would say, wishful thinking still. It could definitely happen, but I would argue that Bitcoin will pause. Um, I don't know if it's going to be here. I hope it's here, and I'm going to draw out something that might indicate it could, but um, I would bet that there's going to be a sideways moving period before Bitcoin makes the touch to the all-time high, or makes it support. Let's say that. That's probably a better way of saying it. There will be a lull in Bitcoin before Bitcoin makes the 20K support. I would say that. So it could happen now. It could happen in a few weeks. Bitcoin can and might peak out at 20K and then retrace down, and then reset itself and move back up. That's entirely a possibility. However, there are a few things I would say that would you know kind of argue against that, and let's go into that. So I'm going to remove this trend line here. We're going to go on the daily chart and just there we go. So the past few days, ever since the that push to 16K, essentially, we have been essentially moving sideways. It's been quite volatile, of like 5% moves the past 2 days. But we're essentially kind of coming to 15,300, 15 like 15 to $15,500 is around the price we've been swinging against that. Um, I know in previous times we said, well, it looked like Bitcoin was moving sideways. Um, at this point, when we're looking at it here, there was still a clear uptrend with Bitcoin. Um, it was still kind of trending upwards. This one, it's a little bit different. It's kind of it looks more sideways action to me than this in the first few days we were looking at it. So I will make the same call that it looks like Bitcoin's going to move sideways. It might not stay within $15,000, and I'll show you in a bit why. But it seems that it's poised to be moving sideways, and it shows in the price action with altcoins right now. Altcoins are rallying a little bit. We did have a bad day, ish. Kind of yesterday, but in all actualities, we've been holding the prices that we had currently from the previous like extreme pump where you saw in like 2 day span, Chainlink going up like 20%, um, Uniswap going up like a considerable amount. We're holding decently at those levels against Bitcoin. So, um, uh, if Bitcoin moves sideways, how's that going to look like? Well, I'd like to revert your attention to the spring to summer sideways moving action that we saw, and this is something that I think like has a probability of playing out this go around. So we're gonna take this to essentially here, and we're gonna move it if I can get it to move. Okay. So you could see at the end that's where Bitcoin kind of shot up, and that's kind of like what we're seeing now. This shoot up here um, to Bitcoin. You can even call it like this, for example. And this is where it gets interesting because I think it kind of fulfills. If we move in this similar pattern, it kind of fulfills two things. It gives us that 20 week. It gives us that a sideways moving action that we're kind of hoping for the sake of our alt positions, but also it does another interesting thing. It'll bring it'll take us down uh, back to the levels of $13,000, which was the peak of the 2019 run, and it will give us that confidence of support um, for us to move higher. And I think that is really needed right now. Because a lot of what a lot of people are fearing is that, well, we're going so parabolically high, it's going to be with no testing of support. And by all means, like Bitcoin can do what it wants. It doesn't need to test support to prove to anybody, and it can go straight up. But I think it'll give some confidence to investors and traders that the move isn't done. We've created support, and we're going to move upwards. So this is kind of like what I'm seeing. We're seeing this run up here. We'll move sideways. We will, if we do dip down, because this sideways moving action, although sideways, did like have a range from 10,300 all the way down to $8,200. So a pretty like a few $1,000 range. And this could be no different. We could be, topping out at like $16,000, close like 16 and a half, to the lows of $13,000 or $14,000. That's entirely possible. But this is kind of like what I'm seeing playing out. We're kind of seeing that same kind of movement um, currently right now in the early stages, like what we saw in April, where we saw this move up and then this stark correction down. We might see that we're looking to see if that happens again. Bitcoin might crash down, and then hold things at support and then move sideways. Another thing that it'll do, we can bring out the it'll give the 20-week moving average essentially time to catch up, because currently right now we're about I think it's like 34% ish above the above the 20-week moving average. You can take a look. So we're still about 40% above the moving average from average to the price. So we're still incredibly high above it. As you can, as we saw in the previous cycle, when Bitcoin got to a certain threshold, whether that's 40%, 50, 60, and at the peak it was like 110%, it does correct down to test the 20-week. Um, uh, we don't know if it's going to happen again this quickly to test it, but we will test it. But an opportunity that can like a situation that can happen if this does sideways moving action play out, Bitcoin, the 20-week moving average can slowly. I kind of drew that bad, but you get the idea. Right now, it's trying to catch up with the 20-week, the current price, but it will level off at some point, and then we can meet it in the middle essentially when Bitcoin starts moving sideways, kind of like what we saw here, and it does make contact with the 20-week, and then we can, with that support as well, we can then have the confidence to move further up. But that's essentially what I'm anticipating with Bitcoin right now. We can potentially see uh, run-ups to 16 and a half. 17,000 seems like a stretch, but it's entirely possible. If you like move this like here, for example, like and we're still waiting for that another leg up to 17 to start correct down to 10.4, sorry, to $14,000, and then start moving sideways there. That's entirely possible. For me, I feel like um, the local top is like perhaps in, and we're going to be starting to move sideways here. But that could be wishful thinking. But it's important to be prepared for certain things like these. It's important to prepare if Bitcoin does make a run up. If it does, I would say, Bitcoin may be hot on the RSI, but this might be an opportunity to take some profits if you think that if you agree with me that Bitcoin is running a little hot on the RSI, it's due for a correction. We know, not a correction down to like the 200-day or whatever, but like a correction nonetheless. You can definitely take profits to take that opportunity if you think the RSI is running a little too hot. You think it's likely to correct down, so you'll take some profits now and then buy back in at a better price. But that's essentially what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, hit the like button down below. If you really liked the video, subscribe. Take care, you guys.